The exploration ship, Intrepid, drifted silently through the darkness of deep space. The year was 2187, and humanity had spread its reach to the nearby star systems. Captain Jack Miller sat in his command chair, watching the stars through the main view screen. His brown hair was trimmed short and his face showed the lines of someone who smiled often, but also carried heavy responsibility. "Approaching the Tau Ceti system, Captain," Lieutenant Susan Grant announced from her station. She brushed a strand of blonde hair from her face as she studied her instruments. "All readings normal," Jack nodded. "Maintain course and speed. Any signs of the anomalies we were sent to investigate?" "Nothing yet, sir," Susan replied. "But our long-range sensors are picking up something unusual ahead. It's not matching any known signature." Chief Engineer Alan Ross looked up from his console. His hands, always stained with engine grease despite the advanced technology around him, tapped quickly across the screen. "Captain, those energy readings are off the charts. Nothing in our database matches this pattern." Jack stood up and straightened his uniform. "Yellow alert. Let's approach with caution." The bridge crew tensed as the Intrepid moved closer to the unknown readings. Suddenly, the view screen flashed, and a massive fleet of ships appeared before them. The vessels were sleek, with curved hulls that seemed to absorb, rather than reflect light. They surrounded the Intrepid in a perfect formation. "Defensive positions," Jack ordered calmly. "But don't power weapons. Let's not make the first aggressive move." "Sir," Communications Officer Peter Hall called out, his young face pale with excitement. "We're receiving a transmission. It's not in any language we know, but the universal translator is processing it." The view screen changed to show an alien face. The creature had gray-blue skin with ridges along its skull. 4 yellow eyes blinked independently of each other, and its mouth was a thin line that barely moved when it spoke. "Humans of the vessel Intrepid," the alien said, its voice translated into a metallic version of English. "I am Fleet Admiral Vrector of the Jarax Confederation. Your presence has been noted and your vessel identified. You will prepare to receive visitors." Before Jack could respond, the transmission ended. "They know our ship's name," Susan whispered. "They've been watching us." Jack turned to his crew. "Looks like we're about to make first contact. Dr. Clark, join me in the conference room. Lieutenant Grant, Engineer Ross, you too. Let's prepare to greet our visitors." Dr. Olivia Clark, the ship's physician, hurried to join them. Her calm demeanor hid her past as a Special Forces operative, a fact known only to the captain. "Captain, preliminary biological scans suggest they breathe an atmosphere similar to ours. No immediate health concerns for either species." Half an hour later, a small Jarax shuttle docked with the Intrepid. Admiral Vrector stepped through the airlock, flanked by 4 guards and a smaller Jarax who carried various instruments. "Welcome aboard the Intrepid," Jack said with a diplomatic smile. "I'm Captain Jack Miller, representing Earth and the United Human Systems." Vrector's 4 eyes blinked in an unsettling pattern. "Your hospitality is noted, though unnecessary. We have studied your kind extensively." The smaller Jarax stepped forward. "I am Scientist Clavex. I have been analyzing human biology and culture for 20 of your Earth years." Jack maintained his smile despite his surprise. "Then you have us at a disadvantage. We're encountering your species for the first time." "As is appropriate," Vrector said. "Advanced civilizations study lesser ones, not the other way around." Jack felt his smile tighten but kept his diplomatic tone. "Perhaps we can exchange information now that we've met. We would be honored to learn about the Jarax Confederation." Vrector made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "Yes, I imagine you would. Very well. We accept your invitation to share knowledge." The initial meeting seemed promising despite Vrector's condescending tone. The Jarax agreed to a formal dinner to discuss potential relations between their civilizations. Hours later, the ship's conference room had been transformed into a dining area. Jack and his senior officers sat across from the Jarax delegation. Chef Garcia had prepared Earth delicacies, while the Jarax brought their own food in sealed containers. Conversation flowed with careful diplomacy until Admiral Rector tapped a device on his wrist. A hologram appeared in the center of the table, showing scenes of human history. "We find your species fascinating in a primitive way," Rector said, his tone reminiscent of someone discussing an amusing pet. "Your legends especially provide entertainment for our young." The hologram showed astronauts landing on Earth's moon, mountain climbers reaching summits, and soldiers rescuing comrades under fire. Jack frowned. "These aren't legends, Admiral. These are historical events." Rector's mouth stretched in what might have been a smile. "Come now, Captain. No need for pretense among friends. Your species has a charming habit of exaggeration. These tales of heroism and endurance make excellent stories, but we've studied human physiology. The feats depicted here exceed your biological capabilities." Engineer Ross leaned forward. "With all due respect, Admiral, humans have indeed accomplished these things. And more," added Dr. Clark quietly. Rector waved a dismissive hand. "Your loyalty to your cultural mythology is admirable, if misguided. Our scientific analysis confirms that humans lack both the physical strength and intellectual capacity for many of your claimed achievements." Jack felt anger rising but kept his voice even. "Perhaps your analysis is incomplete. We have studied humans for generations," scientist Klavex interjected. "Your species has potential, certainly, but your legends greatly exaggerate your capabilities." The hologram changed to show scenes of space exploration, scientific breakthroughs, and survival against incredible odds. With each image, Admiral Rector added a mocking commentary, explaining how the Jarax had determined these events to be impossible or heavily embellished. As the meal concluded, Rector's tone changed from amusement to something colder. "We have enjoyed this cultural exchange, Captain Miller. Now we must discuss the real purpose of our meeting." The hologram shifted to show a massive fleet of Jarax ships. "This is one small section of our armada, currently positioned throughout your star systems. We have been observing Earth and its colonies for decades, assessing your value to the Confederation." Jack stood slowly. "Are you threatening us, Admiral?" "Not threatening, simply informing," Rector replied. "The Jarax Confederation requires new territories and resources. Your systems are ideally suited to our needs. We offer you the opportunity to surrender peacefully and serve under our guidance." Susan Grant's hand moved subtly toward her weapon, but Jack gave a slight shake of his head. "And if we decline this generous offer?" Jack asked, all four of Rector's eyes focused intently on Jack. "Then we will take what we need by force. Your legendary heroes won't save you from our technology, which is as real as your myths are false." "Earth will never surrender," Jack said firmly. "And you'll find that humans are exactly as capable as our history suggests." Rector stood. "So be it. Consider this your only warning." He tapped his communication device. "Security team, detain these humans. Their vessel is now property of the Confederation." Suddenly the doors slid open and armed Jarax soldiers poured in. Despite the crew's resistance, they were quickly overwhelmed by superior technology that rendered their weapons useless. The last thing Jack saw before losing consciousness was Admiral Rector standing over him. "Your species will learn the difference between legends and reality, Captain Miller," the alien commander said, "and I will personally enjoy teaching you that lesson." Jack Miller woke up in a small cell with bright white lights. His head hurt and his mouth felt dry. He sat up slowly on the hard surface that served as a bed. "Finally awake, Captain?" a voice said. Jack turned to see Admiral Rector standing, outside the cell separated by a transparent barrier. 2 weeks had passed since the capture of the Intrepid, though Jack didn't know this yet. "Where is my crew?" Jack asked, his voice rough from disuse. "They are guests of the Confederation. Like you," Rector said, "though they are participating in some educational activities while you recovered." Jack stood up, ignoring the pain in his muscles. "What have you done to them?" "Nothing harmful. We are simply testing the limits of human capability." Rector's four eyes blinked in sequence. "Come, you should see this." The barrier disappeared and 2 Jarax guards entered. They placed restraints on Jack's wrists that hummed with energy. They led him through long corridors of the massive Jarak's flagship Dominion. Jack memorized every turn, every door, looking for weaknesses in the ship's design. They arrived at a large observation room. Through a window, Jack could see several members of his crew in what looked like a training area. Lieutenant Susan Grant and 5 other crew members were attempting to solve what appeared to be a puzzle made of light and energy. "Your tactical officer has been trying to solve this children's game for 3 hours," Rector said. "It's designed for young Jaraks no older than 8 years. Jack watched as Susan's face showed frustration but also determination. "What's the point of this?" "Research, entertainment, education," Rector listed casually. "Your species has such fascinating legends about human intelligence and problem-solving abilities. We're documenting the reality for the Confederation." Archives. A door opened and a smaller Jarax entered the observation room. Jack recognized the scientist from the dinner aboard the Intrepid. "Scientist Klavex," Rector acknowledged. "Your report?" "The human engineer continues to fail the basic mechanical aptitude tests," Klavex said, not making eye contact with Jack. "However, his persistence is noteworthy." "Persistence without results is just stubborn foolishness," Rector said dismissively. "Show the captain the medical tests." The view through the window changed. Now Jack could see Dr. Olivia Clark and several other crew members in what looked like an exercise room. They were running on treadmills while wearing heavy equipment. "Your physician has an interesting history," Rector said, watching Jack's reaction. "Our scans indicate military training beyond normal medical personnel, yet even she cannot maintain the endurance levels described in your historical accounts." Jack kept his face neutral. Very few people knew about Olivia's Special Forces background. The Jaraks had indeed been studying humans thoroughly. "You misunderstand humanity," Jack said, quietly. "Our strength isn't in being superhuman. It's in how we face challenges." "Poetic but meaningless," Rector replied. "Numbers don't lie, Captain. Your crew is failing every test we design, proving that human capabilities are far below what your legends claim." The screen changed again to show different crew members attempting various tasks. All of them showed signs of exhaustion and stress, but Jack also noticed something the Jarak seemed to miss. His people were communicating with subtle hand signals when they thought no one was watching. "Where is my communications officer? Peter Hall?" Jack asked. "Ah, the young one with the exceptional memory," Rector said. "He's being tested separately. His claimed ability to remember complex sequences is being verified." Scientist Klavex made a small noise. "Admiral, the memory test results are actually quite impressive. The human named Hall has demonstrated that human memory is still inferior to even our least educated citizens," Rector interrupted. "Enough progress reports. Captain Miller needs to understand the situation fully." The view changed again to show a star map. Jack recognized Earth's solar system, highlighted in red. "Your homeworld has been given a simple choice," Rector explained. "Surrender within 30 days or face the consequences. We sent this message the day we captured your ship. Half the time has already passed." Jack's stomach tightened, but he kept his expression calm. "Earth won't surrender to threats." "Then Earth will learn, as you are learning, the difference between legends and reality," Rector said. "Take him to see the engineer next." The guards led Jack through more corridors until they reached another observation area. Through the window, he could see Chief Engineer Alan Ross hunched over a table covered with Jarax technology. Ross looked thin and tired, but his eyes were alert as he examined the alien devices. "Your engineer has spent days trying to understand the simplest of our technologies," Rector said. "According to your legends, humans are remarkably adaptable and can comprehend new concepts quickly. Yet he cannot even activate a basic power cell." Jack noticed that Ross was methodically taking apart and reassembling components, his fingers moving with purpose despite his exhaustion. Jack recognized the pattern. Ross wasn't failing to understand. He was mapping the technology, learning its secrets piece by piece. "You're broadcasting these tests throughout your empire, aren't you?" Jack asked, suddenly understanding. "This is propaganda." Vrektor's mouth formed what might have been a smile. Very observant, Captain. Yes, the Jarax people are watching. Your crew fail. It prepares our citizens for the expansion into your territories. They see that humans are no threat. A new Jarax entered the room. This one wore elaborate armor with symbols of rank. Guard Captain Drez, Vrektor said. How are the isolation experiments proceeding? 17 human crew members have been in solitary confinement for 10 days, Drez reported. His voice was deeper than Rektor's. Most are showing signs of mental deterioration. Their social species requires regular interaction. Good. Break them further, Rektor ordered. The captain needs to see the consequences of defiance. Jack felt anger, rising but controlled it. Anger wouldn't help his crew. What do you want from me? A simple statement, Rektor said. Admit that human legends are lies. Tell your crew that resistance is futile. Recommend surrender to Earth when we establish communication. And if I refuse? Then your crew will face increasingly difficult tests, Rektor said. Tests designed to be impossible for humans. Their suffering will be your responsibility. Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The observation window displayed a different area of the ship, where a small group of humans appeared to be resisting the Jarax guards. It seems some of your crew still believe in legends, Rektor said coldly. Guard Captain Drez, handle this immediately. As Drez left, Jack noticed Scientist Klavex watching the humans with an expression that looked almost like admiration. Your crew will learn obedience, Rektor told Jack, and you will help teach them or watch them suffer. The choice is yours. Jack looked through the window at his struggling crew and made a decision. I want to speak to them all. To tell them to surrender? Wise choice, Rektor said. To speak to my people, Jack said firmly. After that, we'll talk about your demands. Rektor studied Jack's face with all 4 eyes. Very well, Captain. But remember, legends won't save you here. Only acceptance of reality will. As the guards led him away, Jack caught the eye of Engineer Ross through the window. A nearly imperceptible nod passed between them. The humans weren't beaten yet. Not even close. 3 weeks had passed since the Intrepid was captured. Jack Miller stood before his assembled crew in a large holding area aboard the Jarax flagship Dominion. Admiral Vrektor had finally allowed this meeting, confident it would break their spirits. You all look terrible, Jack said with a small smile. His crew was thin and tired, but their eyes showed determination. You're not exactly dressed for a parade either, Captain, Engineer Alan Ross replied, earning quiet laughs from the crew. Jack noticed the Jarax guards watching closely. Security cameras recorded everything. He knew Vrektor was watching too, expecting him to tell his crew to give up. I know what you've been through, Jack said, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. The tests, the mockery, the attempts to prove humans are weak. Dr. Olivia Clark stepped forward. They've been pushing us to breaking points, Captain. Testing endurance, intelligence, everything. And yet, here you all are. Still standing, Jack said. He walked among his people, making eye contact with each one. As he passed, he spoke quietly to certain crew members. Status? He whispered to Lieutenant Susan Grant. Ready when you are, she whispered back, her face not changing expression. Jack continued moving. They think our legends are lies, he said loudly. They think humans exaggerate their abilities. He passed by Communications Officer Peter Hall. Navigation systems? He whispered. Memorized, Peter replied silently with just a nod. Jack reached Dr. Clark. Medical ready? He asked under his breath. 3 days, she replied just as quietly. Jack returned to the center of the room. Admiral Vrektor believes that by showing our weaknesses, he proves that humans are inferior. What he doesn't understand is that our strength isn't in never failing. It's in what we do after we fail. The doors opened. Admiral Vrektor entered with Scientist Klavex and several high-ranking Jarax. Behind them came another officer Jack hadn't met before. A stirring speech, Captain, Vrektor said. but ultimately meaningless. Words don't change reality. New Jarak's officer stepped forward. I am Commander Trazel, second in command of this fleet. Your crew has provided valuable research data. Jack noticed that Trazel spoke with less mockery than Rector. There was something almost like respect in his tone. Since you enjoy addressing your crew, Rector said, you can explain their next challenge. Commander Trazel has designed what we call the ultimate test. Trazel activated a holographic display showing various testing chambers. Your crew will be divided into groups. Each group will face a challenge based on your human legends, survival in extreme conditions, complex technological problems, combat against superior opponents. And these tests are designed to be impossible, Jack guessed. Not impossible, Trazel corrected. Merely beyond human capabilities as we have measured them. Rector's 4 eyes narrowed. If by some miracle your crew passes these tests, we might reconsider our assessment of your species. Jack knew it was a lie. Nothing would change Rector's mind. But he also saw an opportunity in being separated into groups for different tests. My crew will surprise you, Jack said. Rector made a dismissive gesture. Guard Captain Drez began the separations. The brutal guard captain began dividing the crew. Dr. Clark was assigned to lead a group facing extreme temperatures. Engineer Ross and his team were given complex alien technology puzzles. Lieutenant Grant was sent to combat simulations. Communications, Officer Peter Hall was assigned to memory and reflex tests. Jack was taken to a special observation room where he could see all the testing areas at once. You will watch your crew fail, Rector told him, and you will record a message to Earth recommending immediate surrender. Jack watched as the tests began. In the extreme temperature chamber, Dr. Clark and her team were subjected to blistering heat. But Jack noticed how they arranged themselves to share the burden, rotating positions to give each person brief relief. In the technology chamber, Ross seemed to be making no progress with the alien devices. Yet Jack saw how he systematically tested each component, building understanding piece by piece. Lieutenant Grant's team faced combat simulations against Jarak's warriors twice their size and strength. Instead of matching strength with strength, they began using the environment, working together to overcome their opponents. Interesting strategies, Commander Trazel observed. They adapt quickly. They fail just as quickly, Rector replied, sharply. Hours passed. Jack watched his crew struggle but not give up. He noticed scientist Klavex taking detailed notes, looking increasingly puzzled. Admiral, Klavex said suddenly, the temperature test group is lasting 43% longer than predicted. Rector waved dismissively. Increase the temperature. Jack saw Dr. Clark whisper something to her team. They immediately changed formation, conserving energy even more efficiently. In the technology chamber, Ross finally connected 2 devices that shouldn't have been compatible. A small light flickered on the alien machine. Impossible, Rector hissed. He cannot have understood the quantum interface. Yet he did, Trazel noted quietly. Jack kept his face neutral, but inside he felt pride. His crew was showing exactly what made humans special. Not superhuman abilities, but adaptability, creativity, and determination. Lieutenant Grant's team had started losing their combat simulations badly. Then something changed. Jack noticed they were no longer trying to win. They were gathering information, learning the Jarak's fighting patterns. Each loss was a lesson. Your crew is performing. Better than expected, Captain Miller, Commander Trazel acknowledged. Though still failing, of course, Rector turned to Trazel angrily. Do not compliment them. These tests prove nothing except that humans are stubborn. Stubbornness has value in certain contexts, Trazel replied calmly. Jack realized there was disagreement among the Jarak's leadership. Trazel seemed more reasonable than Rector. This could be useful. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. On one of the screens, Jack saw Engineer Ross standing next to a smoking alien device. What has he done? Rector demanded. Unknown, Admiral, a technician reported. The human appears to have created a feedback loop in the quantum matrix. Jack noticed that Ross didn't look worried. In fact, he looked like someone whose plan was working perfectly. System malfunction in sectors 7 through 12, another Jarax reported. Communications between testing areas are open. Jack understood immediately. Ross hadn't failed. He'd succeeded in creating a communication channel between the separated human groups. Before Rector could respond, Lieutenant Nicole Martinez from the navigation team spoke up from her testing chamber. Her voice came through clearly on all channels. "Captain Miller, can you hear us? All teams reporting in." Rector slammed his fist on the console. "Shut it down. Cut all communications." But it was too late. For a few crucial moments, the human teams could coordinate. "This has gone far enough." Rector snarled. He turned to Jack. "Your crew's rebellion ends now. You will make an example for them to follow." "What kind of example?" Jack asked, though he already knew the answer. "The kind that breaks a species' will to resist," Rector said coldly. "Guard Captain Drez, prepare the execution chamber. Captain Miller will demonstrate what happens to humans who defy the Confederation." Commander Trazel stepped forward. "Admiral, public execution is not standard protocol for I'm in command here," Rector shouted, all four eyes blazing. "The humans must learn their place." As guards surrounded Jack, he caught sight of Scientist Klavex. The alien scientist looked troubled, his gaze lingering on the screens showing the human crew's unexpected successes. "You will die tomorrow, Captain," Rector told Jack, "and your crew will watch. Then perhaps they will understand that legends cannot save them." Jack kept his face calm as the guards led him away. Ross had succeeded in establishing communication between the teams. Dr. Clark's group had demonstrated extraordinary endurance. Lieutenant Grant's team was learning Jarax's combat techniques, and Commander Trazel seemed to be questioning Rector's judgment. Things weren't going according to the Admiral's plan at all, and that gave Jack hope. The execution chamber on the Jarax flagship Dominion was large and circular. Hundreds of Jarax gathered to watch. In the center stood a simple metal platform where Jack Miller waited, his hands bound by energy restraints. Admiral Rector had arranged for the entire human crew to witness this event. They stood in a separate section, guarded heavily. Jack could see the anger and worry on their faces, but also determination. Lieutenant Susan Grant gave him a nearly invisible nod. Engineer Alan Ross tapped his fingers against his leg in a pattern. Only Jack recognized. Dr. Olivia Clark stood tall, her eyes never leaving Jack's face. "People of the Jarax Confederation," Admiral Rector announced. His voice echoed through the chamber and was broadcast throughout the ship. "Today you witness the consequence of defiance." Jack looked around the room carefully. He spotted Commander Trazel standing to one side, his expression unreadable. Scientist Klavex was nearby, constantly checking a small device in his hands. "This human captain represents the legends his species believes about themselves," Rector continued. "Legends of courage, cleverness, and strength. Today, those legends end." Jack stepped forward to speak. A guard moved to stop him, but Rector raised a hand. "Let him speak his final words," the Admiral said with clear amusement. "Let all Jarax hear the human beg for mercy." Jack faced the crowd. He spoke clearly and calmly. "I am Captain Jack Miller of Earth. I've watched Admiral Rector test my crew for weeks, trying to prove that humans are weak. But he's been testing the wrong things." The Jarax audience murmured among themselves. "Human strength isn't about being the biggest or the strongest," Jack continued. "It's about adaptation. It's about learning. It's about working together to overcome challenges that no single person could face alone." Rector laughed. "Inspiring words. Yet here you stand, defeated." "Am I?" Jack asked. Then he looked directly at Commander Trazel. "Your second-in-command understands what I'm saying. I've seen it in his eyes. He knows there's more to measure than physical strength." Trazel shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. "Enough speeches," Rector said. "Guard Captain Drez, proceed with the execution." The brutal guard captain stepped forward with a weapon Jack hadn't seen before. It hummed with energy. "Any last words, human?" Drez asked. Jack smiled. "Just 4, humans never give up." In that moment, Several things happened at once. The energy restraints on Jack's wrists flickered and died. Engineer Ross had spent weeks studying Jarak's technology and had found a way to create a remote deactivation signal transmitted through the ship's own communication system. At the same time, Dr. Clark gave a sharp whistle. The human crew moved with surprising coordination. They had been practicing in secret during their brief rest periods, preparing for this moment. Jack dropped to the floor as Guard Captain Drez fired his weapon. The energy blast hit a Jarax standing behind Jack. Before Drez could fire again, Jack tackled him, using techniques Dr. Clark had taught him from her Special Forces training. Across the chamber, the human crew fought with unexpected skill. They didn't try to overpower the stronger Jarax. Instead, they used the alien's size and strength against them, just as Lieutenant Grant had learned during the combat tests. "Security breach," a Jarax technician shouted. "The human engineer has accessed our systems." Engineer Ross had indeed found a way into the Jarax computers. The knowledge he'd gained while appearing to fail their tests now proved invaluable. Doors throughout the chamber sealed, trapping many Jarax guards outside. "This is impossible," Rector shouted. "How are they doing this?" Commander Truzwell watched the humans with new understanding. "They weren't failing the tests," he said quietly. "They were learning from them." Jack fought his way toward a control panel. Communications Officer Peter Hall had memorized the ship's layout during his transfers between testing areas. He had shared this information with Jack during their brief meeting. "Stop him," Rector ordered, pointing at Jack. But the Jarax were confused, facing resistance they hadn't expected. The humans moved with purpose and coordination that shocked them. Jack reached the panel and activated the ship-wide communication system. "This is Captain Jack Miller to all Jarax. What you're seeing isn't impossible. It's humanity doing what we do best: adapting, learning, and working together." Dr. Clark and her team reached Jack, forming a protective circle around him. They had built up their endurance during the extreme temperature tests, making them stronger than the Jarax expected. "Admiral," Scientist Klavex called out, "they're accessing our central database." Engineer Ross had connected to the main computer system. The screens around the execution chamber now displayed images of human history, real footage of the achievements Rector had mocked as legends. Astronauts walking on the moon, deep-sea explorers, mountain climbers reaching impossible peaks, soldiers rescuing comrades under fire. "These aren't legends," Jack said into the communication system. "This is humanity's true history. We aren't superhuman. We're just humans who never stop trying." As chaos spread through the chamber, Jack saw Scientist Klavex approaching him. But instead of attacking, the alien scientist held out a small device. "Captain Miller," Klavex said quietly, "I've been studying your species objectively. Admiral Vrector is wrong about humans. Take this. It will help you contact your planet." Before Jack could respond, Admiral Vrector pushed through the crowd. "Traitor!" he shouted at Klavex. "Guards, arrest the scientist." But many of the guards were now listening to Commander Truzwell, who had stepped forward. "Admiral Vrector," Truzwell said loudly, "I am relieving you of command under Article 17 of Confederation law, mental instability affecting military judgment." Vrector's four eyes widened in shock. "You dare? I am the Fleet Admiral." "An admiral who cannot recognize truth when he sees it is not fit to command," Truzwell replied. "These humans have demonstrated capabilities you claimed were impossible. Your judgment is compromised by your hatred." Many Jarax officers moved to stand behind Truzwell. The Jarax respected strength and competence. Jack's crew had shown both. "This isn't over," Rector snarled. He pulled out a weapon and aimed it at Jack. "If I can't command this fleet, I'll at least have the satisfaction of killing you." Before he could fire, Lieutenant Susan Grant threw a small object at Rector's feet. It exploded in a flash of blinding light, a device she had secretly built from components in the combat simulation room. In the confusion, Jack grabbed the device from Klavex and rushed toward the central command console. He knew he had only moments before order was restored among the Jarax. "Ross," Jack called. "I need access to the long-range communication array." Engineer Ross worked frantically at a nearby panel. Working on it, Captain. Just need to bypass the security protocols. Jack could see Rector recovering from the flash grenade. The Admiral pushed himself up, his face twisted with rage. You think this changes anything, human? Rector shouted. Our fleet still surrounds your planet. One ship's rebellion won't save Earth. Jack smiled as Ross gave him a thumbs up. That's where you're wrong, Admiral, he said, inserting Clavex's device into the console. Because now we know the truth about your fleet. The device contained Clavex's research data, including the actual size and strength of the Jarax fleet. It was much smaller than Rector had claimed, a bluff meant to force Earth's surrender. Sending transmission to Earth now, Jack said, and broadcasting the truth to every ship in your fleet. Rector lunged toward Jack, but was intercepted by Dr. Clark. The former Special Forces operative moved with practiced efficiency, subduing the Admiral with a precision strike. As Commander Trazul's security forces restored order, Jack watched the transmission go out. Earth would now know they weren't facing an overwhelming force. They could defend themselves. And the Jarax crews were learning that humans weren't the weak, deluded species Rector had claimed. Captain? Commander Trazul approached Jack. It seems we have much to discuss. Jack nodded. Yes, we do. Starting with the immediate release of my crew and my ship. For the first time, a Jarax looked at a human with genuine respect. Agreed, Trazul said. And perhaps we should reconsider our approach to relations with your species. Around them, humans and Jarax stopped fighting, watching this historic moment unfold. 1 year had passed since the events on the Jarax flagship Dominion. Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, now repaired and upgraded with some Jarax technology. The ship approached the Jarax homeworld, a blue-green planet that looked surprisingly similar to Earth. Entering standard orbit, Captain, Lieutenant Susan Grant reported from her station. Her uniform now carried additional rank insignia. Many of the crew had been promoted after their return to Earth. Thank you, Lieutenant, Jack said. Open a channel to Jarax Command. Communications Officer Peter Hall worked his console with practiced ease. Channel open, sir. The main view screen activated, showing Commander Trazul, now promoted to Admiral after Rector's removal from command. Captain Miller, Trazul greeted him. The High Council is ready to receive Earth's delegation. Jack nodded. We'll transport. Down immediately. In the year since their escape, much had changed. Jack's transmission to Earth had arrived just in time. Admiral Diane Hayes, the Earth Fleet Commander, had received the intelligence about the true size of the Jarax fleet. When Rector's advance forces arrived demanding Earth's surrender, they found a prepared defense that quickly repelled them. With Trazul in command, peace negotiations had begun. The Jarax High Council, impressed by human capabilities, had called for a reassessment of their expansion policies. Today would mark the signing of the first official treaty between humans and the Jarax Confederation. Jack led his senior officers to the transporter room. Engineer Alan Ross was making final adjustments to the system. The Jarax transporters are amazing, Ross said with enthusiasm. I've increased efficiency by 23% by combining their technology with ours. Jack smiled. Ross had spent the past year studying everything he could about Jarax technology. The engineer had discovered that human and Jarax approaches to science often complemented each other in unexpected ways. Is it safe? Dr. Olivia Clark asked, eyeing the transporter platform with suspicion. Perfectly safe, Ross assured her. I tested it myself yesterday. The senior officers took their positions on the platform. Jack gave the signal, and they disappeared in a shimmer of blue light. They materialized in a grand hall on the Jarax homeworld. High ceilings arched overhead and tall windows let in natural light. Dozens of Jarax officials waited to greet them. Welcome to Jarax Prime, a familiar voice said. Scientist Clavex approached them, wearing the formal robes of the Science Council. It is an honor to host the heroes of the Intrepid. Jack shook Clavex's hand, a human gesture the Jarax had adopted for diplomatic meetings. The honor is ours, Counselor. Clavex led them into a larger chamber where the High Council waited. At the center was a table with the treaty document. Admiral Trazel stood nearby with other military leaders. Captain Miller, the High Council leader Mevkar, greeted him. "Your reputation precedes you." Jack bowed slightly. "Thank you for your hospitality, Council leader." "Before we sign the treaty," Mevkar said, "we have arranged a special presentation. Admiral Trazel believed it would be meaningful to both our peoples." The lights dimmed, and a large screen descended from the ceiling. It began showing familiar footage, the same recordings Admiral Vrektor had used to mock human legends. But this time, next to each historical recording, new footage played. It showed the crew of the Intrepid during their captivity, demonstrating the same qualities seen in the historical records: endurance, intelligence, teamwork, and courage. 1 year ago, Mevkar addressed the assembly. Many Jaraks believed these human achievements were exaggerated legends. Today we recognize them as fact. Jack watched his crew's faces as they saw themselves on screen. There was pride there, but also humility. They hadn't done anything superhuman. They had simply been human in the best possible way. The presentation ended with footage of the rebellion on the Dominion, Jack's speech in the execution chamber, the coordinated action of the crew, and finally, the peaceful resolution when Trazel took command. "Where is former Admiral Vrektor now?" Lieutenant Grant asked quietly. Admiral Trazel overheard her question. "He serves as a historical researcher on an outer colony," Trazel replied. "His first-hand experience with human capabilities makes him uniquely qualified to update our records." Jackie couldn't help but smile at the irony. The man who had mocked human legends now spent his days documenting their truth. The ceremony proceeded to the treaty signing. As Jack signed his name on behalf of Earth, he reflected on how much had changed. What began as a simple exploration mission had transformed into first contact, captivity, rebellion, and now, alliance. After the signing, there was a reception where humans and Jaraks mingled freely. Jack found himself approached by a young Jarak student. "Captain Miller," the student said with obvious excitement. "I'm studying human history at the Science Academy. Is it true that your engineer reprogrammed our quantum matrix with only basic tools?" "Engineer Ross is quite talented," Jack acknowledged. "But what he did wasn't magical or impossible. He observed, learned, and applied what he discovered. That's what makes humans so fascinating," said scientist Klavex, joining the conversation. "Your species doesn't excel because you're stronger or smarter than others. You excel because you never stop learning, never stop trying." Jack nodded. "That's the real human legend. Not that we're superhuman, but that we're persistently, stubbornly human." Later, as the Earth delegation prepared to return to the Intrepid, Admiral Trazel pulled Jack aside for a private word. "There's something you should know, Captain," Trazel said. "Since news of your crew's actions spread throughout the Confederation, we've seen changes. Young Jaraks are studying human history with respect rather than mockery. Some are even adopting human approaches to problem-solving." "Cultural exchange works both ways," Jack replied. "My engineer isn't the only one studying Jarak's technology. Humans are learning from you, too." Trazel's four eyes blinked in what Jack now recognized as a gesture of respect. Former Admiral Vrektor was wrong about many things, but perhaps his greatest error was in believing legends must be false. Sometimes legends become legends because they contain essential truths. As Jack and his crew transported back to the Intrepid, he felt a sense of completion. They had faced doubt, mockery, and danger and had proven themselves not with words but with actions. On the bridge, Jack looked at his crew, Engineer Ross discussing modifications with his team, Dr. Clark checking on a crew member's injury, Lieutenant Grant plotting their next course, and Communications Officer Hall monitoring transmissions from the planet below. "Set course for Earth, Lieutenant," Jack ordered. "Let's go home." As the Intrepid broke orbit, a fleet of Jarak ships formed an honor guard around them. On the view screen, Admiral Trazel offered a final salute. "Safe journey, Intrepid," Trazel said. "May your legends continue to grow." Jack returned the salute. "And may our peoples write the next legends together." The ship accelerated into deep space, carrying home the crew whose actions had transformed an alien mockery into respect and enemies into allies.